Time around we are going to be looking at a new thing. We are going to be looking at the aspect of fieldwork, and we are going to be looking at the fieldwork research or fieldwork study. When you look at fieldwork, this one deals with the quantitative method of data collection that aims at observation, interpretation, and understanding of people in terms of how they live within the natural environment. That is what we term as fieldwork. We are looking at how information is gathered or how information is obtained, and the interpretation of the gathered information, and how people react or how people are influenced by the environment or how they react towards the environment. That's what we term as fieldwork. When you look at fieldwork, I talked about that it deals with what we call the quantitative research. When you talk about the quantitative research, it deals with or it involves the aspect of multiple aspects in terms of research, where an individual carries out research in terms of personal social world in relation to how he perceives the things and how he lives within the environment in relation to what he has obtained. This quantitative research or these quantitative fields mainly looks at the methods, mainly deals with or focusing onto direct observation in terms of obtaining information. So here we are going to be looking at the different forms or different types of research, where we talk about the field research. When you look at field research, it involves the quantitative research. So under the quantitative research, we are going to be finding also different categories how research are being carried out, or how quantitative research looks at in terms of different categories. We have what we call the directive research, then perspective research, and also quantitative interviews, and also helpful links. When we are talking about the directive research, here we are looking at the data gathered through across visual inspection of the natural setting. In other words, they require an individual going into the field to observe directly the features. So someone goes into the field to obtain information, but critically observing each and every feature, the way how it appears and how it came into existence. Then with the directive research, this one is more of using the sense of the body senses. For instance, the use of the eyes to clearly observe what the physical environment has got in terms of physical features and also other resources. And then also when you look at another form known as before we go out to the forms, we have the methods, the advantages and also the disadvantages of this method. When you look at the advantages, they are saying that an individual is able to interpret all the physical features. In other words, when you are into the field, you are able to interact with the physical features with the help of eyes. You can be able to see each and every feature that may be appearing in that area. Even the other, in other words, it also saves the time. It saves time compared to other methods of fieldwork research that we shall be talking about. When you look at the disadvantages, they are also saying behaviors observed during direct observation may be unusual or may be a typical form of data gathered from direct observation. What they are trying to mean that the behaviors of the observed information may be atypical. In others, the others are things that may be difficult for an individual to interpret due to the aspect of physical obstacles. For instance, it may be about the weather that may be hinder someone to observe these features. For instance, if it is rain, I talk about smoke or fog. These ones may tend to hinder someone's intention of observing different features. They are saying that the principal form of direct observation is field worker notes. In other words, that once you go into the field, that it means deals that when you observe, that it does not give you, or you don't, or does not require. Sorry, it requires someone to have written the information down, or it requires field notes. After observing, that you have also to be able to write down the information that you may have gathered from the field. When you don't write that information, sometime the information may be tending to disappear from you or within the minds. So those are some of the disadvantages. They are saying that also the photographers or videos are also another form of the data collected from the field. So when you capture photographs or when you use videos, they can also be helpful to also try to display the information that may be captured in the field. So those are some of the disadvantages. Then the other, we are going to look at the participant observation as a form of fieldwork research. With this research, for this, it develops an understanding of composition of particular setting. For instance, societies, by taking part in everyday routines or activities. That is what we call the participant observation. These ones mainly deal with things of our daily routine. When I talk about daily routine, I'm looking at various economic activities that are done within a given area. So this method deals with viewing or seeing things that tend to be happening within the physical environment. When I talk about the things, I'm referring to fishing, mining, tourism, and other activities that may be done within given activities, or that may be done within an area on a daily routine. Then the other that we can also mention about the participant observation of field research. This one also originally developed in the early 20th century. They are saying that researching natives or researchers or the native society developed or from developing countries had to embrace this research by studying a range of issues concerning the environment. When you talk about studying ranges of issues, for instance, given activities, these people could observe given areas, what they do. So they termed that as participant observation method. So when you look at this one as one of the advantages, they talk about that it develops understanding of the setting of the members of a given society. In other words, it helps us to understand various activities that may be done within a given area. So for it displays what are given activities, all of thinking, all understanding of a setting and the members of all within a given society. Then the other they are talking about is the disadvantage that the researcher must develop a researcher must devote a large number of time and money in terms of studying or obtaining this information. In other words, they're trying to mean that it takes a lot of time when obtaining this information, and also money, simply because it requires someone to be moving from one place to another to study about given activities that may be done depending to particular areas. So those are some of the disadvantages that we're trying to talk about. Then the other they are trying to display is that there is spending more time among the members. So this one, when you travel from one place to another, when you want to be finding out a given aspect in terms of participant observation, the researcher is able to be knowing given information or to obtain information, and in so doing it require a lot of time to take when he or she is studying about the given form. Then the other below, they are saying forms of data are gathered from participant observation. I talked about the notes. I talked about the notes are required for someone to obtain such information from the field. They say that the field notes are more primary type of data collection. Then they are talking about the frequent data or frequent research that each and every time that it needs you to be keeping an eye or going to those areas and to find out the information that may be changing depending to given aspects of the physical environment. So those are some of the forms that they have got. However, then we have what we call the quantitative interviews. When you talk about the quantitative interviews, these are the types of field research where the methods and of information and the data involves asking questions to the members or people within that communities. When you look at this form, it involves people going from one place to another to ask questions. When you look at also this research method, it has got three different types. Under the types we have what we call informal research method. Then we also have the conversational, semi-structured, and also the standardized and open method. So those are some of the methods that it has got. When you look at those methods, they try to display given things. The first thing we are going to be looking at is what we call the informal conversation interview. This one frequently occurs during the participant observation, and there are also what we call the direct observation, where people go into the field directly and ask questions to the member from a setting. As a conversation upholds, the researcher formulates specific questions and also obtains immediate feedback from the field. So that's what we call the informal conversation interviews. Then the other that we have, it has got the disadvantages and also the advantages. One advantage is that it allows the researcher to be responsive to the individuals' differences and capture emerging information. That the researcher that is able to be obtaining information from the field, specifically from the individuals that tend to be living within that area, which becomes easy for him to know what is existing within the environment. And then the disadvantages, they are saying that it generates less systematic data. In other words, it gives less information from the field. So there is some information that may be missing out depending to someone who may be delivering the information to you. In other words, that in form of capturing that information. They are saying that also it is difficult to classify and analyze the information once somebody is narrating to you those stories or that information. That's what we call the informal interview method of data collection. Then the other, I talked about the semi-structured interview. This semi-structured interview, it involves formally recruiting a member from as given a setting for specific purposes or conclusions or interviews. This one, the person that is picked goes structures questions or information that may be given to the respondent. They are saying that it gives also a prior knowledge or information to the interviewer. They are saying a list of predetermined questions or prompts are known as interview guides or questions are given to the interviewee. with response to similar scenarios or questions. And then they are talking about that questions to be of an open-ended nature, to evict or to give or to display information. And then the researcher is free to purchase and probe other topics as they emerge during the interview. That is, the researcher is free to give or to ask questions depending to what the interviewer and the interviewee, when they are carrying out to their session. Those are some. That is what we call it the same structured interviewing. But it also has some of the disadvantages and the advantages. The advantages, they're saying that it captures data across the interviews, that anything that you may be asking when you meet face to face, this one will be able to capture a wide range of questions, since the person is knowing that he will be going doing an interview. So those are some of the methods that they are trying to talk about. Then there we shall be looking at the stages or phases in carrying out fieldwork study, where we shall be picking up next time from. For now, I beg we stop here and we shall meet next time.